Hello, everyone. Juan Adams, for those of you that don't know me. I just recently was supposed to main event a card this past weekend, and my opponent pulled out of it. But before we get into all of that, I've stated for a while that I was going to launch a YouTube channel, and I feel like this will be the first video. There are a couple other videos before this, just on various things, different parts of my progress and my own growth as a human being. But that's kind of going to be the nature of my channel. So, with all of that being said, I'm going to give a little bit more backstory, and then we'll get into this. Um, Backstory. Some of you may know that I've had a litany of jobs, my most recent of which being a school teacher. This will be my last year doing that. So I basically have 3 months to really go back all in on this and all in on my fighting. And let's see where that takes me. So I do have a Patreon page up for those of you that would like to support, possibly sponsor, but that'll all come later. I'll give you some more information on that towards the end of this video. For right now, though, we're going to talk about this fight and, my own developments leading up to the fight and kind of what's next after that. So, for this fight, I was supposed to fight a guy named Austin Green, 5-0. He was a big prospect. And there was even some people saying that, if he had beaten me, he might have gotten a call up to the UFC or Contender Series. That may have been the case, but he was not going to beat me. Ultimately, I feel that, that pressure weighed a lot on him. And that had more to do with him not accepting this fight or him pulling out from the fight the day of weigh ins, as opposed to the other reasons that he gave. He said it was a weight cutting issue. I offered to fight even if he did not make weight. Even after he had gotten an IV and started his rehydration process an entire 12 hours or so before I did, I was still willing to fight, still with me making weight and still going through my refuel at the delay because when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And that's kind of who I am as a man. It's who I am as a person. It's something that I feel everyone should be. If your word means nothing, you mean nothing. And so let's dive into that. That's kind of where we're going to go. That's all I really want to say about the fight. I will say that I don't harbor any ill will towards him. And I think that no one else really should either. Yes, it was a big hit to the card. Yes, it was a big hit to the promotion. Yes, it was a big hit to everyone that spent money on their tickets, but you never know what someone else is going through. And in moments like this, it's best to extend grace to those people because everyone we know is fighting a battle that we know nothing about. So, again, that's all I'll say on my opponent. Now, let's get into myself and my own personal development. Leading up to this fight, I was extremely grateful, right? Not necessarily because everything in my life was going right, but because everything was kind of going wrong and I was still prepared to go in at my peak. I was in the best shape of my career. I had the easiest cut. I felt mentally in a better place than I ever have going into the fight, which is saying a lot because a lot of the things that happened during this camp would have broken me at another point in my life. So we'll get into some of the stuff that happened and then the steps that I've taken since getting to this level that have really allowed me to be in the place that I am right now. So they say bad stuff happens in threes. The first bad thing that happened is literally the Friday before fight week. Um, I had a meeting at my job. I was told that they are not renewing my contract, and at that point, I had 2 options. I could wallow or I could work. So I immediately started writing out content and plans for episodes for this YouTube channel, which will come in the following weeks. And I applied to a few other jobs, but ultimately, I started teaching because I felt called to help people, right? More specifically, youth. Before I was teaching, I was working in behavioral health with various victims and survivors of trauma. And it really spoke to me. And, I just felt that impacting youth has always been something crucial to who I am as a person, even as, a teenager in high school. I was always, babysitting my coach's kids at games and things like that. In college, it was the same thing. I worked in the youth community wrestling program, and I was a member of the Character Counts Club, where I would go to schools and just talk to children about various aspects of character. And, just that's something that's always been really important to me. Service to whatever community I'm a part of, and more specifically, service towards children, because they're our future, and if you can make a kid's life a little better, or you can make the world better for that one kid, they can probably go out and make it better for a few more. So that's just my thoughts on that. So yeah, that's something that would have broken me, kind of made me not go as hard on my workouts, kind of mail it in fight week and just wallow in self-pity. And I knew that that's not something I could do. So I just kept working, right? The next bad thing that happened, right before that, right before I found out about, oh, no, right after I found out about the job thing, the brakes went out on my car, right? On my drive home at lunch, I had forgotten something at home. I'm driving, one of my brakes goes out, and I barely make it home, right? So again, that's another thing. One, it's an unexpected expense. I've just found out I've lost my job. Everything's kind of going downhill, but instantly, I find a new car on Facebook Market or whatever. I'm going to use my fight check to get it. All that set up. We get it all handled. So everything was good, right? Another thing, crisis averted. It's another thing, when things start to pile up, a lot of people can get into a defeated mindset. And I didn't allow myself to do that. So that same day is when kind of the third bad thing happens, right? Uh, the girl I was seeing, and I know everyone that's followed my career knows, when Juan has girl problems, like he does not fight well. And that is very true. And but this time, I kind of figured it was going to happen based on this person's pattern of behavior. I'm not going to say anything about that person anymore, but the thing is that one thing as a person that you have to do is recognize your own core principles, your own core goals, and what it is that you want out of whatever situation. And you always have to act in accordance with your higher self. That's what we call it, or your desired outcome. So you must be that which you wish to be, right? You can't receive something, you cannot attract something unless you are embodying the person that needs, or the person that would attract that thing, right? That's really big. And all of your law of attraction people, law of assumption people, whatever, they call it living in the end, right? So I had made up in my mind that no matter what that person did, I was going to remain true to my principles, remain true to my promises, and keep my word. because if your word means nothing, no one will ever trust you, no one will ever believe you, and it typically makes your life a little bit harder, right? So, that's three things, right? I'm thinking we're done. I'm thinking, all right, that's it. The rest of this fight's gonna go smooth. I'm gonna make weight super easy. I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna win my fight. Everything's gonna be okay. Use that fight check, get the new car, pay everything off that I need to pay off, move forward, schedule the next one, and really get back into launching myself back into being a full-time fighter, right? That was my goal. Because the first time I was a full-time fighter, um, I sacrificed a lot of my principles, right? I did things in terms of promotion, in terms of the way that I was living life that were not consistent with the man that I wanted to be. And it cost me and it took a piece of me that I'm not willing to lose again. So I made sure and I told myself I'm going to do everything the right way this time. And one of my goals is to, one, get back to being a full time fighter, but two, leave something behind or give others a guide to make their life a little bit better. And hopefully, someone watching this can learn from my experiences and make their life a little better. That's my ultimate goal, to impact this world in a positive way. Right. So, all that happens. This is fight week at this point. That's the third bad thing. I'm thinking we're gold. Everything's good, right? We continue to go through that last bad thing that happened. That was the Tuesday, and I flew down to Houston on Friday. The weigh-in was Saturday. The fight is Sunday. I spent all my time refocusing, getting my mind back, getting my mind right, making sure I'm completely focused on the task at hand. What I did is I reread the four agreements. You definitely, I would highly recommend everyone reading that book. If you've already read it, read it again. And a lot of people focus on what those four agreements are. Today, I'm only going to talk about the first one. Be impeccable in your word, right? And I look back at the words that I set and the intention that I set for myself for this fight camp. And it was, one, you will not miss workouts. I will not miss workouts. I will give myself every advantage I can going into this fight. That was the first one. Give myself every advantage I can. The second word that I gave is, nothing will pull my focus from this fight. The third thing, I will not allow the occurrences of my life to become excuses for a poor performance. And those are my three words or three agreements with myself that I led into this. So as I'm moving forward, right, we get there, fight week. I land on Friday. I have 12 pounds to go, right? First thing I do, throw my sauna suit on when I land, start going, get a sweat going, do all my work. Got knocked out 7 pounds. Boom, right there. I've only got 5 pounds to go. I go chill, throw on a TV series that I've been wanting to watch for a while. Got a little bit consumed in the series, not gonna lie. It was a great binge. It is what it is. As I'm chilling, I'm like, okay, I really got to cut these last 5 pounds because I know I'm not gonna want to do it in the morning, right? But I also know 5 pounds I can do that in the morning, so it's a double edged sword. As that happens, I'm scrolling Facebook and I see my opponent saying whole weekend ruined on his story. I'm like, huh, that's weird. It looks like he's in the back of an ambulance. And on my walk earlier that night, I had seen an ambulance leaving the hotel. So I was like, no way. Right. Then I go on and I see him post again saying, This is not how I wanted my weekend to go. And then I see a very long post stating he was pulling from the fight. And that's 11 o'clock at night. I've got 5 pounds to go. At this point, I have two options. I say, screw it. I start eating. I start drinking. I say, oh, well, the fight's off. Whatever. I'm not going to do it. But I remember the contract that I signed. I remember the words that I told myself. And I made sure that I didn't do that. So rather than cut the last 5 pounds in that moment, I go to bed, wake up, talk to the promoter in the morning, and all right, well, you still make weight. You can still get your show money. So I'm like, okay. I also offered my opponent at that point, like, hey, I don't care what your weight is. You step on the scale, I'll fight you at whatever weight it is. Like, I want to save this card. I want this fight to happen. I'm ready to go. That's where my mind was. I said, no, no, whatever. I make the weight, long story short, get half a paycheck and set everything up to come back home. Was I crushed? Absolutely. You know, um, and looking back, I really feel that that fight not happening was a lesson to me because while that fight was important and while I was using that fight to kind of launch my career again, I also recognized that it was a form of destination happiness for me because so many bad things had happened leading up to that. But my whole focus was, well, as long as I win this fight, as long as I get the fight, as long as I get two fights, everything's going to be okay. And everything's going to be okay, regardless of if I get that fight or not. Regardless of anything external that happens, I have to understand that I am going to be okay. I'm going to find a way to make it work. And so now we adapt and I adjust. But when you put that much into something and you try to make that the source of your happiness, it's another reminder that you are looking external from what has to come from within, right? Your happiness in this world cannot be extrinsic. And that is was kind of the recurring lesson of those that last week leading up to that fight, a broken promise within my relationship. That's one example. Boom. I was allowing that to affect my happiness and my outer mood way too much, right? Then a broken promise that falls apart. I had a choice in that moment to be miserable, or I could continue to set forth along my path in alignment with what it was I told myself and the agreements that I made with this promotion, my fans, and everyone that supports me. So that was test one, right? The job, right? My financial security gone again. That is something external. And I cannot allow that to be the source of my happiness, right? So again, I have to reframe, refocus, and adapt in order to make the most of it and find a way to remain positive, happy, and still get done what I said I was going to get done. And then the third thing with the car, right? The car goes out. Again, that's my means of transportation. What am I going to do? I could allow that to break me. And that's a little different. It's not allowing it to be the source of my happiness, but it could have been a great source of despair. And I could have allowed it to break me and give up, but I did not. So those are the lessons that I took from this. And finally, with my opponent pulling out, I could have allowed that to make me revert, right? Revert back into older patterns and go into saying bad things about him or, you know, making all these other excuses and kind of making him a scapegoat for my own unhappiness or my own discontent. And that's not the type of man that I want to be. So I decided to extend grace in that moment, extend understanding. I get it. There's pressure. There's all kind of things. I don't know what that man is going through, but I know that if I was in a similar situation, having a bunch of people rag on me isn't going to make anything better. So what's done is done. Uh, and everything is what it is. It simply is. Things don't have to be intrinsically or inherently good or bad. They just are. And how I react and how I respond moving forward can make the situation positive or negative. And I know that if I allow any of these things to pull me out of the type of man that I want to be, it's an overall negative, not just for everyone involved, but most importantly for myself. And I wouldn't forgive myself if I allowed that to happen again. Anyway, so next week, what are we going to talk about? Next week, we're going to get more into the philosophical side of things. I plan to talk about truth. Um, Obviously, there's like universal truth as well as situational truths, etc. I'm gonna get all into that. Might be doing that with someone. We're not really sure yet. I just kind of want to get some traction going on all these videos. If you could go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, that would benefit me greatly. You can find me on Instagram at Chosen Juan 285. That's Chosen Juan, not one. Same thing on Twitter, YouTube channel, KrakenCares. For those of you that don't know, the Kraken is my fight name, and Kraken cares because I care about people, I care about humanity, I care about the world, I care about you, and that's that's it. And if you're interested in supporting my fight career, supporting this channel, helping me upgrade to where I'm not using somebody else's studio, you can go ahead and find me on Patreon at Kraken Cares again. Pretty simple with the branding here. Um, Thank you all. Any suggestions? Go ahead and comment down below. I'll read some of them. The best way to get suggestions on or things you would like me to talk about on this channel is go ahead and shoot me a DM on Instagram. In terms of the direction for this channel, I've already stated before, I kind of want to make it more about philosophy, kind of spreading awareness for certain things, talking. Eventually, it'll morph into a podcast of sorts. I'm sure we'll be having guests on, of course. And the big focus here is going to be the social, emotional aspect of life and learning. I'm getting certified to be a teacher for those things. So, more to come on that. But for right now, just over here talking about life and things that I feel can help people because once again, Kraken cares. Take care.